Jake Gyllenhaal has delivered some of the most transformative, emotionally raw, and psychologically intense performances of the 21st century.
Morning, Pete.
Roles that left audiences breathless and critics in awe. He starved himself for Nightcrawler, lost himself in grief for Stronger, and unraveled his soul for Prisoners, creating characters that felt disturbingly real, almost too real. And yet, with every award season, he's politely applauded, but respectfully ignored. No matter how far he pushes himself or how deeply he disappears into a role, Jake Gyllenhaal remains one of the greatest actors without an Oscar, and maybe the most underrated actor of our generation. But let's see how Jake Gyllenhaal became one of the greatest actors of our generation without ever getting the recognition he deserves. How he built a career on pain, obsession, and absolute transformation, but still Hollywood refused to crown him. Jake was born into Hollywood, but not in the way that screams nepotism or guaranteed fame. His father was a respected director, his mother a screenwriter, and his sister Maggie Gyllenhaal would eventually become an acclaimed actress in her own right. But for Jake, that Hollywood legacy was both a blessing and a curse. He wasn't just fighting to prove he belonged, he was fighting to prove he didn't have it easy. His breakout came early in October Sky when Jake was just 17 years old. It was a quiet, emotional tale about a coal miner's son who dreams of becoming a rocket scientist. Jake played Homer Hickam, a kid who saw beyond the limits of his small town. The film was a modest success, but what stood out, what critics couldn't stop talking about, was Jake's eyes. The sadness, the depth, the subtle desperation of a boy who wanted more. Hollywood noticed. Jake had range, he had emotion, and he had something rare, sincerity. But it was Donnie Darko in 2001 that changed everything. At just 20 years old, Jake played a troubled teenager haunted by visions of a demonic rabbit that predicts the end of the world. The movie was weird, disturbing, philosophical, and somehow beautiful. It flopped in theaters but became a cult classic, launching Jake into the world of edgy, misunderstood anti-heroes, roles that required complexity, depth, and madness. And yet, with every powerful performance, Jake stayed under the radar. He wasn't chasing the spotlight. He was chasing something darker, something more personal. He wasn't interested in playing charming romantic comedy leads or safe, crowd-pleasing roles. He wanted to bleed on camera, to suffer, to disappear. So why didn't Hollywood reward him for it? Maybe the better question is, did they ever really want to? Because just a few years later, Jake Gyllenhaal would take on a role so controversial, so career-defining, that it nearly rewrote the rules of masculinity in Hollywood. And it came with a cost he's still paying today.
A lot of actors didn't want to play a gay role.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that pressure?
Now everybody does.
I'm thinking of doing a romantic film with Heath Ledger.
Right. Really, we had no idea what it was going to be like.
When Brokeback Mountain was released in 2005, it shattered stereotypes and split Hollywood straight down the middle. Jake played Jack Twist, a closeted cowboy in love with another man, portrayed by Heath Ledger. Their performances were groundbreaking, tender, heartbreaking, fearless, but they were also dangerous. Not because of the subject matter, but because they challenged the carefully guarded image of masculinity that Hollywood had spent decades protecting. Behind the scenes, there was pressure. Some agents advised their actors to avoid the script entirely, fearing career suicide. The industry, still afraid of alienating conservative audiences, was reluctant to fully embrace the film's success. But Jake leaned in. He said yes to a role most actors were too scared to touch and delivered something timeless. That quiet pain behind his smile, the way he ached for connection, the way he let his vulnerability live on screen, Jack Twist wasn't just a character but a revolution. Audiences were moved, critics called it brave, and yet the Academy's response was tepid at best. Jake earned his first Oscar nomination ever for Best Supporting Actor, and while the film received 3 awards, the Academy refused to name it Best Picture, giving that honor instead to Crash, a decision that many still call one of the most egregious snubs in Oscar history. Criminal, right? But Jake never complained. He didn't play the victim. He became more intense, more reserved, and more dangerous. It was as if something inside him had broken open, and he decided to stop trying to please anyone and wanted to reach his true potential as an actor. Jarhead was released the same year, and Jake delivered a performance that was all internal tension and emotional implosion. He shaved his head, bulked up, and buried his charisma under layers of isolation and existential dread. It was a war film without war, a character study without catharsis. Then came Zodiac, when Jake showed how a man can slowly fall apart while trying to solve a mystery that might not even have an answer. He nailed that quiet unraveling. It was one of David Fincher's most carefully crafted films, and Jake kept the whole thing grounded. He wasn't loud, but he was powerful. That's what made the performance so special. Then in Source Code, Jake stepped into science fiction but kept the emotions real. He played a soldier stuck in a time loop, reliving the same 8 minutes on a train, trying to stop a bombing. The story could have been just another action flick, but Jake made it emotional. His character wasn't just trying to save lives, he was trying to figure out who he was. That heart made the film memorable. And in Prisoners, he played Detective Loki, a calm but haunted investigator trying to solve a child kidnapping case. While Hugh Jackman gave the intense, emotional performance, Jake was the quiet force. Every twitch, blink, and long pause added depth. You could feel the trauma behind his eyes. Loki wasn't a superhero. He was a real man, dealing with real pressure. Jake made him feel honest and human. In 2013, Jake Gyllenhaal vanished, not in real life, but into the role that would redefine him forever. In Nightcrawler, he played Lou Bloom, a gaunt, soulless freelance crime journalist who manipulates, deceives, and destroys for the sake of a story. Jake lost 30 pounds, stayed up for nights on end, and transformed into a character so disturbing that even audiences didn't know whether to be horrified or impressed. And he didn't just play Lou Bloom, he became him. Jake refused to blink during entire scenes, giving Lou an unnatural, almost inhuman stare. He biked a set in the middle of the night to keep himself wired and off balance.
You saw him.
I can't jeopardize my company's success to retain an untrustworthy employee.
You're crazy.
And off-screen, he refused to break character during interviews, almost as if Lou Bloom had taken over his mind. This wasn't a performance, it was an exorcism. Critics said it was the performance of the year. Many believed it was finally Jake's time to take home the Oscar. But once again, he was left off the nominations list entirely. No Best Actor, no recognition. The question became louder, what does Jake Gyllenhaal have to do to be taken seriously by the Academy? His 2021 performance in The Guilty, a one-man psychological thriller, was a masterclass in emotional claustrophobia. For nearly 90 minutes, the camera rarely leaves his face, forcing the audience to watch a man emotionally unravel while confined to a single 911 dispatch chair. That level of control, that vulnerability, it's rare. Yet still no Oscar talk. Then came Ambulance, a Michael Bay thriller that reminded people of Jake's range. He could chew scenery, own blockbusters, and carry high-budget action just as effortlessly as he could disappear into the skin of broken men. Even in genre films, Gyllenhaal brings humanity to roles that don't ask for it, and that's what separates him from most leading men. And maybe that's why his legacy feels so different from his peers. Jake doesn't chase relevance, he defines it. Every few years he reinvents himself, choosing roles not because they're buzzy, but because they're bold. He's worked with auteurs like Denis Villeneuve, David Fincher, and Dan Gilroy, carving out a lane for himself as the thinking man's leading man. He thrives in discomfort, choosing projects that unsettle rather than seduce. Whether he's unraveling in psychological thrillers or anchoring indie dramas, Jake's work feels alive, urgent, and timeless. Awards are symbols, but legacy is substance. Jake has built something more lasting than a trophy case. He's built a body of work that challenges audiences, that dares to explore the uncomfortable, and that stays with you long after the credits roll. He's become the kind of actor who isn't just admired, he's studied. So what happens when the best actor of a generation stops trying to win and just keeps delivering anyway? He may never be the Academy's favorite, but he's already every serious film lover's favorite actor. And honestly, for me, that might matter more.